These are pennies, pennies, the crumbs literally off the table of Warren Buffett's hoard, right? He allowed some crumbs to fall that potentially some of his workers might get one paid sick day. This is class warfare, everybody. These are the billionaires and the millionaires and the American oligarchs declaring war on the working people, period, point blank. And this is in the form of the railroad workers. Now, what we keep hearing a lot, and please be mindful of the ways that mainstream media outlets are framing this. And actually, I want us to go to a clip of CNN coverage today of the potential of this railroad strike. And do you think CNN's concerned about the workers? No. CNN, like the mainstream media, like the puppet masters that run this country, they are concerned with the health of the economy. The economy, yes, everybody should sacrifice themselves for the economy. This is giving me big February, March 2020 vibes when COVID first hit the American mainland with a vengeance. You should go out there and sacrifice yourself for the health of the economy. This is what capitalism insists that we all do. But listen to the breathlessness way in which pundits and those who appeared on CNN today in this montage clip discussed the health of the economy. Fuck them workers. Let's take a look.
A rail strike is one of the most disruptive and expensive things that can happen to an economy.
A rail shutdown or strike would disrupt supply chains.
A strike means food prices could skyrocket.
Many experts are saying would be an economic catastrophe.
That could mean a big shortage and massive price hikes. Even gas prices could increase.
And it also could cost the economy $1 billion within the first week.
That would cripple the economy.
I'm not setting aside the concerns of your members, but are you and your members willing to stop the rails, in effect, and accept those costs to the U.S. economy?
Do you believe a strike is worth it if it cripples the U.S. economy and costs up to $2 billion a day?
More than $2 billion per day.
Is it worth it?
And on top of all of that, the holidays are right around the corner.
It's a little less than a month right before Christmas here.
Especially right before the holidays.
President Biden warning if that happened, it would devastate the economy if we had a strike like that. So joining me now to talk about this and a lot more is Bank of America. It's Brian Moynihan, Chairman and CEO, one of the biggest banks in the world.
Yes. Let us ask the rich white guy what the fuck he thinks, right? Because we don't get enough of the rich white guy perspective on mainstream cable news. Now, everything I heard in that clip had everything to do with class division, trying to pit working people against each other, and fear mongering. All that rhetoric regarding the holidays are upcoming and gas prices will go back up. All of these things are absolutely true. But at the end of the day, if other working people do not stand up for what these rail workers are asking for, then by extension, I was going to say it was going to extend to the rest of us, but a lot of working people out here don't get paid sick time off. They do not get paid holidays. If you don't work, you do not eat in America. In this capitalist system, your labor is to be exploited for as much as the oligarchs can extract out of you. Okay. But I don't like the way in which the whole framing about the holiday season and making people paranoid, like, oh my goodness, I won't be able to get my children their holiday gifts. And what happens if gas goes up? The fact of the matter is what these rail workers are asking for is literally the bare minimum. Now, part of what the rail barons, the owners of the railroads, did agree to and stipulate to was, I believe, a 24% increase in salary over the course of a few years, which on its surface sounds really good. It sounds as though, hey, that's a reasonable accommodation, right? If your employer gave you a 24% raise, you would probably be very happy. But if they said, but now you're on call 24/7, now you can't take off work sick and expect to get paid for it. In fact, you may actually be penalized for it. That raise is not sounding so good these days, right? That raise may not be exactly what you thought it was, because all of the life compromises that you have to give up in order to get that 24% raise. But fuck that. If I'm making 24% more in my salary year over year and I can't take a vacation, The fuck? What is the point? What am I doing this for? If I can't spend time with my family, what am I doing this for? If I can't go to my children's athletic events, what am I doing this for? If I can't celebrate vacations and anniversaries with my partner, what am I doing this for? If I can't spend time with my aging parents, what am I doing this for? And what these people are doing it for, tragically, is to enrich the bottom lines of people like Warren Buffett and the other railroad oligarchs. But clearly, we see this across the sector. We see this across the working spectrum of every single industry in this country. These companies and corporations, and specifically capitalism, are out to exploit us, the working people, by any means necessary and in every single way possible. And the fact of the matter is, this economy doesn't work without us. Okay. And if we want to nail it down, let's get back to the rail workers. It damn sure, this economy absolutely does not work without these rail workers. Hence the class division politics and the framing that you're seeing in the mass media to try to pit us as working people against those working people, the railroad workers, because God forbid they could inconvenience us some, right? And I know it's deeper than inconvenience. I know that a lot of necessities ride the rails beyond our commerce and retail stuff. People who are disabled, people who are dependent upon medications and medical equipment in order to survive, this is going to affect them greatly should these workers go on strike. But that is not a reason for them not to strike, because in fact, if they stand up for what they are owed, and truthfully, I feel like they're asking for too little. And I even feel as though what Bernie proposed is also too little, those 7 paid sick days. We have to be there willing to support them. We honestly do, because don't fall into the trap of we have to protect the economy. We don't have to protect shit. Okay? We don't have to protect shit. We are not the main benefiters from this economy. All of this wealth transfer that we have seen happen from the working class and poor classes up to the very, very wealthy during this pandemic should have been a big red flag. It should have been a big blinking beacon for us to get out into the streets and to demand what is exactly owed to us, which we are not getting. And you're seeing these men, these working class white men, and I look at them and I'm hearing in my head all of the layoffs and reductions in railroad staff that has happened in this industry over the past 5 or so years. And I see these white guys and I'm like, well, those must be the ones left, because clearly, well, maybe y'all don't know, but Black people know that we are the last hired and the first fired. Right. So I look at these guys, I'm like, wow, these must be the guys that they decided to keep around. And look how they're treating them. Look how they are treating them terrible, treat them like animal. It's bad. It's very bad. And when we look at who our elected leadership is, especially when we look at members of, say, the squad, I don't see no solidarity. I might hear chop chop chop. I might hear some ram ram ram. I might hear some solidarity, but when it comes to dollars to donuts, when it comes to action, when it comes to the ways in which people vote, I'm not seeing it really from the squad at all. But I want you guys to take a listen to this clip. So in that montage of CNN drivel that we saw at the very end, they were going to speak with Bank of America CEO. And I looked at this interview and I thought, first of all, why do you ask the armed robber to come in and talk about why the bank got robbed? Like these are the main ones stealing from the rest of us. But I want you guys to listen to the question that is asked of the Bank of America CEO pertaining to workers and how workers have been asserting their power and reasserting their power in really ways that we have not seen in this country in quite some time. And I want you to listen very carefully to the answer that he gives and the way that he frames the power dynamic that has happened between workers and employers. Let's take a look.
I want to talk about what's going on with workers. You employ so many people at Bank of America. You have led on wages, increasing wages now to $22 an hour at the bottom. They're going to be $25 an hour by 2025. But real wages are down for folks because of inflation. And something's going on with workers. I was home in Minnesota this weekend. Coffee shops were closed. They couldn't find workers. Restaurants can't find enough workers. We're seeing unionization at companies that never saw it before. Starbucks, Amazon, news outlets like BuzzFeed. What is happening with the American worker?
Well, the labor markets got very tight, so the dynamics shifted. That with the kind of employment levels we had, claims for unemployment still are bumping along at very low levels, levels that haven't been seen since the numbers of workers are like 25% lower. So, the labor market's very tight, and so the negotiation power moves around, right? I mean, that's what happens. The quit rates got way high. What you're seeing that now is mitigate, which is actually good from the Fed perspective in terms of the economy, but you're seeing that mitigate. Now, how do we think about that? Yeah. Our job is to provide an ability for an 18-year-old to join our company and to be here their entire career and get themselves educated and trained with us. And you do that all day. I just celebrated a 50, 55, 60, 65, and a 75-year employee the other day. So think of 75, do some math, and think that the person started as 18 and went to college. That's what great employers do. And so our turnover rate moved up like everybody else has already moved back down. My guess is by early next year, we'll be back in line where it was in 19, which is good. But that takes employers really saying, how do I holistically help a person develop a career?
Like you guys gave money, a lot of it, to employees to pay for childcare during the pandemic when you asked them to come back.
I cannot stand it when journalists openly suck up to powerful people. It's really one of it really grinds my gears. Thank you so much, Double K, for your super chat. Thank you for supporting Status Coup News today. So listening to the Bank of America CEO, they're talking about the way that the power shifted, that when the labor market had a lot of openings and workers were leaving jobs, the Great Resignation, you remember that? Yes, I still support that shit. The Great Resignation was in full effect, and workers were saying, take this job and shove it. Take this job and shove it. This job is not worth my actual life because, hey, we're still in the middle of a pandemic. I know everybody likes to pretend as though the pandemic was 5 whole years ago. No, we are still very much in the middle of a pandemic. And in 2020 and 2021, we saw workers making decisions, especially so-called essential workers, prioritizing their health and safety and the health and safety of their families over the corporate bottom line and profits of a lot of these companies. Ergo, workers were in demand and they were able to write their check, write their ticket, pay me this, give me this amount of paid time off, or I just won't come work for you. And of course, the corporations, the business class of this country is extremely uncomfortable with that and have clapped back in ways. That's what I think a lot of this inflation stuff is. It's not inflation per se. It is price gouging. It is the wealthy class striking back against the working class for actually having the audacity to ask for things. And they said, well, how about this? How about we hike up the prices to everything sure, they can say supply chain and all that shit. That was not the case with gasoline over the summer when gasoline prices were exorbitant and outrageous and the oil and gas companies were just outright profiteering and price gouging Americans and people in this country for the sake of their profits. They don't give a damn about what the economy does to working people. What they care about is their profit margins. And if there's anything that's going to compromise that, then that must be stopped, okay? Including workers taking up for themselves and agreeing to a strike. And the fact that Congress, the House so far, and Congress have outright kneecapped these unions and are forcing their workers into this bullshit contract is an embarrassment. Embarrassing does not even really sum it up. It's shameful. And it should be rage-inducing. It should be enough to get people out in the streets. And what I'm hoping again for the rail workers to do the wildcat strike, not agree to these terms, walk off the job, and grind this economy to a halt, because that is the only thing that the oligarchs will ever feel, and they won't even really feel it. And yes, the bulk of the short-term pain will be borne on the working class. But guys, it's either this or we got to get out in the streets and burn the shit down. Either we stand with these rail workers, should they decide not to adhere to this, which I really hope that they don't. And let's be clear, it only takes one sector, really one entire sector, to strike in order to set it off. I think the general strike is our direct path to getting some sort of economic equality in this country. Some sort. At minimum, can we have a social safety net? Can everybody have access to universal health care, universal mental health care, universal basic income? These are not exorbitant asks, okay? And especially under capitalism, which is not considerate of the rent prices and the gas prices, right? America has to do something different in order to keep its people sustained. I don't give a fuck about the economy. Sustain the people of this nation. And you wonder why half of the country has laws in place that are forcing women to bear children because people are looking at this economy and these set of conditions and making different fucking choices. They do not want to bring children into this. But that's why they are now being forced to, legally compelled to bear kids into this capitalist system. I do not like it here.